Hi, friends. Welcome to Spilling the EsTea podcast. Today, we are going to talk about how an esthetician who was a solo esthetician in a studio ended up having 17 studios across Nevada and California. And that esthetician is me. I'm your guest today. I thought it'd be fun to kind of get you to know my story. And I know we had a lot of our employees come on, or past employees, and it's been really fun to hear their journeys with us and after us. They all played a huge part into what we are today. And I just wanted to tell you how Humblebee grew into what it is now. We've have employed in the past over 100 employees who are with us or who have left to venture off. All of them contributed to our success because, they worked for us and they put our name out there. Humblebee is now 12 years old. January, it would be 12 years old. And it was not easy. And I hope I can kind of give you my advice on how I can help you. Maybe you're in a similar situation. Maybe my story connects to you in a way that, where you are in your path right now. So here I am. I'm going to tell you how I became an esthetician. This is meant to be a 3-part series. So this is pretty much going to explain how I got into the industry, really. And I say it's a tale of triumph after many doors being shut in my face. So I'll go with that. And then the next one will kind of be how Humblebee started, how I did end up a solo esthetician and went on to what it is today. So that's kind of how I'm going to do it. And the last part is going to be question. Feel free, send me questions, how I did it. But to be honest, I'm in the treatment room and I get a lot of estheticians who ask, what should I do? How did you do it? Or even not even estheticians, some people who just want to open a business, they ask me like, okay, how did you know to hire people? How just these questions that they keep asking, I feel like maybe it will be relatable to you guys and maybe it'll be helpful. So that will be the last part of this series. But for now, it's just going to be me kind of talking about my journey and how I ended up in the hair removal business, how I ended up loving hair removal and sugaring, and how I started from the beginning. So basically, how it happened, I was 18 out of school, thought I wanted to do hair. I went through the whole program. I did all 1,600 hours, and I realized it was not for me. I don't know. It just wasn't. Maybe it was, to be honest, maybe it was like the whole color theory and just it was a lot of technical stuff that I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. And the math of pulling hair and having it be certain angles that it just didn't, I didn't make sense to me, to be honest. But envy all these hairdressers, and my best friend, she's a hairdresser, and, you know, I have nothing but great things to say about that industry, but it just wasn't for me. I When I was in school though, I really was drawn to the aesthetics program. I remember seeing the girls in their white coats and I was like, "Oh, man, I want to be one of them. That's what I want to do." Especially when we went in the esthetician program, we had to do some esthetician work to get your license. So I love that part. I loved learning about skin. I love learning about hair removal. Even though it was such a small portion of the course, I really was drawn to it. So I ended up not, I ended up finishing my cosmetology course, but I never took the test. I never went to get my license. And maybe like a year and a half passed, and I just kind of gave up on the whole idea of doing aesthetics and kind of went more into, okay, maybe I'll just take some courses and kind of go more into getting my business degree. I thought, okay, I'm going to finish my associates and maybe I'll go into um, 4 year. But for me, I'm not gonna lie, I hate school. It just wasn't for me. I did do it and I got my associates, but I was still drawn to the path of maybe check out the esthetician program. And that's what I did. I went back to the school where I got my cosmetology license. And this was a school that was in a community college. And I'm not going to lie, I was very lucky. This was like 20 years ago. I think I was in my 20s. I'm dating myself, but it was about 20 years ago. And back then, it was like, I want to say it was 2007. I think 2007. And then college credits were like only $20. So I pretty much got my whole esthetician program for $700. The whole program was really like 1,000, I believe, at the time, but I did have financial aid. So I got the course and I got the kit that went with the class for $700, which is wild to me because now I have employees or people who we interview and they tell me how much they paid for school. And I feel for you guys, it's a lot more money. And when I became an esthetician, it isn't what it is today. There are very few people in my class. I want to say there was like 12 of us in there. But now I see these programs, these schools that just keep getting estheticians in and out the door that's a lot more than what it was at the time when I became an esthetician. So I kind of feel like I got in kind of at the right time because now you see it. There's so many of us, estheticians, hairstylists, and I can see how hard it is, especially as I see my journey. I felt like was hard, but seeing your guys's, it's next level harder because there are a lot more people in this industry. So that's kinda how I went through my schooling. I was lucky because I was able to transfer some of my college courses that I had when I went to cosmetology over to the aesthetics program, so I only really needed a semester. I just wanted to make sure I had a refresher, make sure this is what I wanted to do, and then go from there. So after that, I went to take the test to get my license. Unfortunately, I didn't pass the first time. I didn't. I passed the test, which I was really surprised at because I'm just not a good test taker, but I passed and I didn't pass the actual hands-on part of the course, which sucks now because now estheticians and you don't even have to do like actually do the hands-on part. And I was like, oh man, you guys are so lucky. You guys really did have it good right now. But for me, it took the second time. And that second time, it was a period where I was in Southern California and I moved to Northern California. So I moved to San Francisco. I was living with 6 people in I wanna say it was like a 4-bedroom, and I was in this makeshift room that one of my good friends kinda set up for me, and I had 2 jobs, and I was working at a makeup counter and a tanning salon. So I was there, and I took about a year off from the first time that I failed the course, and then I, finally went in and got my license, and I passed. I was so excited because I thought, "Oh, I have this piece of paper. I get to do what I want to do, what I've dreamt of." And to be honest, my dream was actually to work on a cruise line and travel. I grew up in a small town, so the idea of having this license and doing facials and I really wanna do facials. Like, that was, like, my main thing that I was looking for, but it didn't turn out that way. For several reasons, but the main reason was everyone wanted experience. And I think a lot of you could relate to that. We interview a lot of people, and it's kind of one of the main things that the girls say in the interview is, yeah, I applied here, but they want experience. And, you guys went to school, paid all this money to just be rejected so many times. I can kind of see how people fresh out of school just want to open their own thing because they're trying to get themselves in the door any way possible, you know? But I persevered. I probably went through 20 interviews and they all loved me. I interview very well. I've heard it several times. Every interview that I've had, I ended up getting the job, but it wasn't the case for this. It was just always, "Oh, we love you. You have great energy, but you need experience." And It was very upsetting because I just knew if like they would just let me in, they would see how hard I work and they would be so happy to have me. But I look at all those rejections as, it wasn't meant for me. It wasn't my time to do that. And now looking back and seeing the dots, I'm so grateful to those people who said no. I almost want to go and thank them because it brought me to a job that I loved and really shaped me as an esthetician and as a business owner. It really made me who I am today. And how I ended up getting that job was not something that most people would do. But at the time, my boyfriend, now husband, he told me just go in the door, give him your resume. Once they see you, they're gonna want to hire you. They're gonna want like you just need to talk to someone. So what I did was I would walk because I had two jobs. I would walk past this cute little salon. It had yellow walls and it just looked super bright and cheery, a big yellow sign. And I was just drawn to it. I would walk past it pretty much every day on my walks to work. And it was just such a cute little lane in downtown San Francisco. And I went in and I asked the front desk, "Hey, are you hiring?" And it so happens, they were hiring. And the receptionist was so sweet. And we talked for a bit. And I gave her my resume and she gave it to the owner. And the week before, it's so wild. My partner, he pretty much told me, he said, "You know what? Just say if they say no, just tell them you work for free. Get your foot in the door. Don't worry, if you need help in any way, like I'm here for you." So I had that in my head. I got the call. They said, "Let's interview you." They interviewed me and I got a call maybe a couple days later saying, "Sorry, once again, you need experience." So I instantly said, "I'll work for free. I will cut your palette. I will fill your products. I will work front desk. I will do anything to get my foot in the door. I want to show you that I am a hard worker and I want this." And she was like, "Oh," she was very surprised. And she was like, "Let me get back to you." And then an hour later, she called and said, "Okay, let's do this." And I was able to work 4 hours a day for like 4 days, I believe. And I was just so happy. I was ecstatic. I was like, "Oh, I don't know how I'm going to fit this 4 hours into the two jobs that I already had." But I did. And I would, go to my first job 7 in the morning, leave, go straight to the esthetician job, which is a place called Bala Palette, no longer open. But, I am so grateful that they gave me that chance. So I would go there and then I would go to my last job and I'll be done. I was done at the end of the day, like at 10 o'clock. And then I would have to do that public transportation, and I would get home like at 11 and then start all over again. So that's kind of where I was. They ended up hiring me full time. So I was able to leave those jobs and I was able to learn everything. I was working there. I want to say it was 2 months that I was working for like more as an intern type of situation. I was doing it for like 2 months and then when they hired me on, I was full time. I was still doing all the things. I was working the front desk. She had a product line, so I was doing all the filling. I was doing all the inventory for her. She really taught me how to run the back end of a business. And she really made my wheel spin that, man, this is possible. This is something maybe I can do. But, I was just thinking more of like maybe me, myself, like a solo person. But she gave me a chance and I wanted to show her till the end. Like I always tell people, oh, I would work there until I was 99 years old because I just want to show her like how grateful I was that she even gave me the opportunity. And I ended up being a really, really busy esthetician at that location and had lots of clients. And, sometimes I think of all the money that I made there, especially in San Francisco. And this was I think it was, like, during, like, the recession, like and I had no idea, you know? I was, like, in my 20s and making all this money. People would come in and, I was really fast at Brazilians, so I was doing, like, 15, 20-minute Brazilians and getting people in and out, and they were tipping me $20, so at the end of the day, I had all this cash tips, and, you know, I just felt like, "Oh my gosh, I made it." And I was able to move out of the that apartment and I was able to get my big girl apartment where I was able to live on my own in San Francisco, but like I said, at the time, it was a long time ago, so it was something I was able to do. So, that's kinda where I was at that studio. I think I was there for, like, 4.5 years, but I learned everything from that place, and I was so happy that was my first job out of school because it really did teach me so much that I would never have known if I was just to go straight into either a waxing place or doing facials and just doing that instead of learning the back end. That's why a lot of people come up to me. Well, when I tell them kind of my story, they kind of ask, "So, how long should you stay working for a place?" And I loved being part of a team. I really loved having that support and not having to do all the work. And especially now being a owner of something, I see how hard it is to run a business. And I see how the owner of the salon that I worked at really, really put all her all and soul into it. And it is a thankless job. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I felt like, oh wow, like if it was just me, all this money would be mine. But now that I look back, I'm like, man, that's not the case because you do have a lot of things that you have to pay for when you have a business. So looking back at that, I'm like, oh man, I should never have had those thoughts because, you know, owner really sacrifices for you. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to learn, I learned a lot from there because they did spray tanning. We did what did we do? We did spray tanning, we did hair removal, and we did facials. And we did lash extensions as well because at the time lashes were kind of becoming big. And I just fell in love with hair removal. I kind of told my boss, I don't want to do facials. I I like the spray tans, so I kept the spray tans, and I really enjoyed doing them, and I felt like I did enough to master, spray tans. So I loved the spray tans, I loved hair removal. And hair removal is one of those things where I feel like it's in and out, 15, 20. You get that love bucket of talking to your clients, and I really enjoyed it. And I knew very quickly that specialization is always the best way to go. So I really tried to specialize with the hair removal, and I was a waxer, before I started sugaring, and once I started sugaring, I just never looked back and stuck with sugaring because I saw all the results that came from sugaring, especially from being a waxer and seeing the difference between your waxing and your, sugaring clients. That's night and day. And I mean, I've been doing this 17 years, so seeing the difference in clients coming in really made me just shift to straight sugaring. And sugaring kind of came along. I learned from, well, basically, how I got into sugaring was the front desk. The girl at the front desk, she is my really, really good friend. And she actually works for Humblebee now, but she was the manager of the salon I worked at. And I would do her Brazilians and she would just turn so red. And she has that really pale skin that you just touch and she'll turn red. And I just felt like I was hurting my friend. So she decided to go try sugaring. To be honest, I never even heard of it. She researched it and she found a place in San Francisco that did it. And that's how I got into it. She came back and she said, "Look, Dulcinea, I just got this done and my skin is great." And she kept saying, like, the results are just night and day and the grow back. And I was just intrigued. And for me, I'm a Taurus, so I feel like it's hard it's hard to wanna learn things, and I was like, I don't know." But I was open to it, and thank God because it really changed me as an esthetician. And I went to the place where she had got it done, and it was a cute place in this little, like, house thing, and I walked up and I saw the setup and saw that it was just a ball of sugar and no sticks. It was just very simple, and she did it. And usually when I would get my Brazilians done, I'm not gonna lie, it was painful for me, but I'm like, I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna get it done and power through. And I actually used numbing cream because we had numbing cream there at the salon that I worked at. But I just went, no numbing cream, nothing, and it was the least painful Brazilian I've ever had. I didn't feel the sting, I didn't feel the pullback, I was just in awe of her technique. And I just got to chatting with her, and she turns out she was an educator. She was an educator for, I believe it was Alexandra Professionals. And that was one of the main ones when I started sugaring that was the biggest at the time. And it was a Canadian brand. And so I had the process done, and I was just blown away by everything. And we ended up chatting, and she was telling me how she's the educator for this Alexandra Professionals, and that I think it was like 2 weeks from the time I saw her that she was going to do a class and that I should join. And I said, absolutely, of course. And I think it was like $500 at the time. And, that's a pretty big investment. I mean, I had a good clientele and, I wasn't much of a saver back then, but I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I took the course, and I was just blown away by this process. And it was a 2-day course, and it was outside of San Francisco. So the lady who was teaching the class, she actually picked me up and she would drive me to where it was. And so I actually got to pick her brain as well. If you really want to learn, surround yourself with people who know more than you, and you will go very far. And she knew way more than me. She's been in the industry for a long time. She had big dreams of opening up her spot, and I believe she ended up doing that. I'm not in touch with her anymore, but I really took in everything that she was saying, and I learned a lot from her just from those drives. So that's kind of how I ended up doing sugaring. That's how I ended up falling in love with the process and crafting the skill. And to be honest, like in the beginning, learning how to sugar was very, very hard for me, as all new things are. And I'm sure for all of you guys, learning something new can be difficult. And learning sugaring, it was hard. But just like learning waxing, was hard. And I know sometimes you could go back, you could be like, oh, forget this sugar. Like, I would just rather go waxing. It's something that I know. But I'm glad that I didn't have that mentality. I was like, no, I'm doing this and I'm going to power through until I get it right. And I'm really glad I did, because I could have gone the other way and I still could have been waxing now. But then it was just a sea of waxers. When I learned sugaring, there wasn't many people sugaring. I was one of the very few who sugared. Especially when I did move to Vegas, there wasn't many. And that's kind of how my journey was when I started being an actual employee. Like I said, I was there for about 4.5 years. I'm so grateful for that timeline, even though at the time it was really hard. It was really hard building a clientele. These are things they don't tell you in school. They just say, oh, you're going to go out there and you're going to get this many clients and you're going to make this amount of money. But they don't tell you, how hard it is to get there. They don't say you're going to have to put yourself out there. And I had to put myself out there. When I worked at the studio called Bella Pele, the owner, she was like, here's cards, go pass them out. And I would walk around the whole city passing out my cards. I would talk to people and say, hey, I'm a esthetician. And I really tried to pull as many clients as possible. And I never took for granted if the salon sent me someone new, I tried my best to make them reoccurring clients, because I knew how important it is to have that client base and that returning client, because that's the business that we're in. We're in the business of having returning clients. And, I learned that very early on just by watching all the other estheticians, because there was about like 7 estheticians who worked at the studio I did. Just watching them have full schedules and seeing people just come in and out, it was just really inspiring to me, seeing how busy someone can be. And it was just amazing. It just made me super excited and super motivated. And I wanted to be like them when I grew up. I just kept on saying that, like, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I created such great bonds with those estheticians and friends, and I was so happy to be part of a team. And I was lucky to find something like that because I know there are different companies who it is like going somewhere and it's a turn and burn situation. You just feel more like a number. The salon I worked at, I really felt like family. I felt seen, I felt heard, and it was a job that really taught me how to be the owner I am today. So that's it. That's part one. This is me introducing myself to you guys, and hopefully, I can guide you through your journey. Maybe you relate to what I'm saying, or maybe you're going through the same thing. And I'm just here to root for you. I'm here to answer any questions. If you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe. It will really help me as I build this channel. And it's interesting because this is a new channel and I take it how I take everything. You have to start from the bottom, and this is me starting from the bottom. So give me grace as I move along and kind of get to where I know this podcast can be. And to me, I want this podcast to be something that I can help people because I've been through it all. I've seen it all, I've heard it all. And this is just not coming from me. This is coming from employees, people who we interview. There's so much that I want to help you guys with. So please like and subscribe. It really helps. And I hope you stay for the next part of the series. It's going to be more about how I actually started Humblebee, how it became what it is today with 17 locations, and how we scaled it and how we did our hiring process. And it's going to just be more in depth of the beginning years of Humblebee. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.